Hi, this is Alicia with Falcone Family Farm, and today we're going to go over what the best animals are to own for Armageddon. So I just kind of caught the survival bug and was curious and started doing the research as to what the best animals would be to own for sufficiency in the event that something cataclysmic happens in the world. Now I did do a blog post on this that goes into more detail. I'm going to kind of stick strictly to the animals that I picked for this. But if you want to go over to my blog post, it'll cover the time it takes for these animals. Are you in the best area? Who are your neighbors? Do you really know them? What's the state laws in your area? What's your climate? Do you have a good area for the animals that you're choosing? And then it does go over some alternatives to raising the animals if you don't have the space or time for them, as well as some of the other animals I may have not seen as the best ones to put on this list. So the first animal I have on this list, of course, is dogs. Dogs have minimal land requirements. They just live where you live. They're great for protection, rodent control, hunting, an early alert system, companionship, and even herding. Obviously, some breeds are going to be better at this than others, and I do have a link in the description below to another post that lists what the best breeds are going to be for a survival situation, so be sure to check that out below. But ultimately, in reality, there has been dogs in other countries that have been just, owners couldn't take care of them, they released them into the wild, and they actually form packs and thrive and they're able to survive, so it does make them a good animal for you to have as a survival dog, provided it's not a little Chihuahua or something like that. Like I said, there are some breeds that are going to do better than others. So bees are another great one. I think this will probably depend on where you live, if you have a lot of flowers to feed your bees, but they do have minimal space requirements because you just need a spot for them to be, and you don't have to own the land that they're going and traveling to. You can just be near somewhere that has a lot of flowers and they'll travel. Bees generally travel within about a mile of their hive, but they have been known to go as far as 5 miles away to get the food that they need to produce honey. Now, bees can be challenging. It may sound easy to stick a hive there and let the bees do their thing, but there is a lot more to it than that. Bees can be susceptible to mites or attacks from other bees. So they are one that requires a lot of research and knowledge to make sure that you can do what you need to do to make sure that the bees succeed. But they can provide you a variety of things depending on what you're after, including the honey, of course, and then there's also the royal jelly, wax for candle making, and even in some cases the venom. The venom has been used before for people that have chronic pain like arthritis and nerve pain. But a big thing to keep in mind and find out before you get bees is whether or not you are allergic to the sting, because that would not be good for you to find yourself in a situation where you are not able to go to the hospital and you get stung and you have a deadly reaction to the venom. So that is something to know, is are you allergic to the venom? And if so, depending on how bad it is, that's something you'd want to stock up on, is the EpiPens and stuff in the event that you did get stung and had a reaction. Chickens is an obvious one for a lot of people. They provide you eggs, they can provide you meat. They've been around forever, even through the Depression, where people didn't even have coops. The birds just kind of ate whatever handouts people could throw out their doors, and they just slept in the barns with the other animals. Ideally, you do have the land and such to kind of naturally feed your birds. Some breeds are going to be better than others. A lot of people tend to like the dual purpose breeds. I'm thinking if it is a situation in which you can't just go to the feed store, the dual breeds possibly might be a little bit on the big side as far as a survival bird, because they are a little bit more heavily bodied and are going to need some sort of input to keep that egg production and stuff up, unless you live in the perfect ideal environment where they're always able to go and find bugs and stuff for them. The best breed I've been able to find, if you are in a little bit more of a scarce area, is the brown leghorn. They have a high egg production rate. They're a little bit of a lighter bird, a little bit of a flightier bird, but that also makes them more easily to evade predators and stuff in the area. So to me, it makes them a good survival bird. No, you're not going to get as much meat off of them, but you know, most people are after chickens for eggs. Personally, I do not like chickens for meat. They are a more difficult animal to process, get the feathers off. Once their egg production does begin to decline, you can eat them. They're just a smaller bird. A lot of people like ducks. They're not really for me. I find them to be a little bit messy. But if you have a natural water supply, they may be beneficial on your property. No, ducks don't have to have water, but it is ideal. That's what they like. That's how they are able to eat their food the best. But they are good for meat, eggs, and even feathers if you need those for stuffing in pillows. But as ducks are a lot like chickens in the sense that they lay eggs all through the year, and they tend to be a little bit bigger eggs, a little bit stronger shells. So the eggs last a little bit longer, and I believe I even heard that the eggs are a little bit more rich too. Turkeys may not seem like a good one because they are a big bird. They require more feed input, but if you live in an area where turkeys are already running wild, then it could be a great bird for you. Us in Colorado, we do have wild turkeys that we'll see walking around the mountain all year round. You just want to be able to get either a heritage breed, or if you're even I have seen people who sell the wild strain of turkeys and then they're already accustomed to that area. You absolutely would not want to go with the broad-breasted varieties because those are the ones that they cannot breed naturally, and they get so big so fast that it is damaging for their health. But something we have found is that turkeys can be trained to stick around home. So it's good if you do have something on hand and you can toss them, you know, a handful of scraps or something like that for them that they look forward to each day. And that way they will range and go look for food on their own. And then they do have more of a homing beacon on them that they'll come home. You just need to provide them a roost. We have been able to raise turkeys without a coop. They seem to prefer it too because we've had ones that were trained to the coop, but as they got bigger, they preferred going onto the coop and into the trees. So as long as there is a way for them to roost to where they're not going to get eaten by foxes or anything like that, they do well. We've even had them through the winter and they're able to manage it. So if you know you already have wild turkeys in the area, that's a good one to consider. Coturnix quail is kind of a tricky one. They are good for a meat bird, but they also lack a lot of skills to be able to survive on their own. So they are a bird that is a little bit more reliant on you, but they also are very prolific breeders, and it doesn't take much. They grow fast and they provide you meat. They can provide you little eggs. They're very fast growing and there's kind of a quick turnaround with them. So that's where I think that they do make a great doomsday bird. You just need to have a good setup for them and have the ability to keep a breeding program and stuff going with them. They are one of the ones that are going to require more protection. You can't free range them like you would chickens. They will have to be in pens. So like I said, just the proper setup and you can have success with this bird. Because they can't really free range, that would put it on you a little bit more to go out and maybe there's some good natural forage and stuff that you can pick a few handfuls, toss it to them, and they can eat that. Rabbits are another good one. However, it does depend on what kind of setup you have. I had our rabbits in ground pens that were 6 foot by 12 foot, and that put all the work and effort on me to try and feed them naturally. I had to go out there manually, cut the grass, in order to cut down on the feed costs, because again, we're going under the assumption that you cannot go to the feed store and buy them pellets. But if you do have a lot of flat land and you're able to construct a rabbit tractor that you just have to move throughout the day, and you're able to make sure that they're going to be protected and you're not going to have wildlife coming and getting your rabbits, it can be much easier, and that way they are kind of surviving on stuff on their own. They can't just eat grass. You do need to provide them some other things, and that could be anything from bark, twigs. You know, for us, we give them pine needles, and that's kind of a natural dewormer for the rabbits and gives them some vitamins. Obviously, rabbits will produce and give you meat, and that's where they are kind of my favorite meat animal because they are very easy to process, where you just pull the skin off and it's ready to go. It's not like chickens where you have to do a whole process of getting the feathers off. And then rabbits are also one of the very few animals that you get cold manure from. So hot manure is, going to be almost most other animals where if you try to put that on your garden, it's going to burn your garden. Whereas with rabbit manure, you can put it straight on your garden and it's not going to kill your garden. It's something that can be used right away, or you can compost it and use it later. Some people have tried to create just a big space for the rabbits so they can kind of do their thing naturally. From the sounds of it, that doesn't tend to work very well. The rabbits get picked off by birds of prey, or the nighttime critters come in and start taking out the rabbits. So that's where it is important to have some sort of way to protect your rabbits and have more control over their exposure to other wildlife. Goats, to me, are an obvious one as a survival animal because unlike a horse or cow that they mainly need grass to survive, goats are browsers, so they can pick off anything around in your area from bushes, tree bark. If they can get it in their mouth, they'll eat it. I mean, you do have to be aware that there are some toxic things that are not going to be good for your goats, but usually I haven't had a problem with it. They seem to know what's toxic and what's okay to eat. But with goats, you can get a whole variety of products, from the milk to cheese to soap to lard for cooking, or they can help control weeds and stuff in your area. And another great thing with goats is that they are productive for almost their entire life. A lot of people who breed goats will breed them 10 years, even 12 years. Me, I'm a little bit less harsh with that because I see them as kind of a dual pet and milk producer for us. So I like to cut it off at 8 years, but a lot of people, they'll go to 10, 11, 12 years. Goats pretty much will produce all the way up until they die. So this is a tricky one because most people don't have the land requirements for a horse. And if you are going to have a horse with the intent of if you have to bug out or something, like they need to be in top physical condition, they need proper hoof care, they need proper exercise, they need to be in good physical form for in the event that you do need to use them to bug out. An important one with horses though is hoof care. You're probably not going to be able to have the farrier come over and take care of your horse's hooves, and a horse with bad hooves is not going to do you any good. So that is where you're going to have to learn how to become your own farrier. And it does help to also pick the proper breed of horse. The best one is going to be those horses that are most closely related to the wild, which would be the Mustangs. Their hooves are already harder and more equipped for the wild, versus there are horse breeds out there that have softer hooves, and they're not going to be as great for if you need to suddenly travel. And that about does it for this video. Like I said, I just kind of quickly wanted to go over some of the main animals. If you do go to the blog post, it does break it down a little bit more to show a little bit more of the survivability of each animal, what they produce, the land requirements for each animal, what you are going to need to provide for each animal, and how long that animal will be productive for you. So I would highly recommend checking out that post if you want more details. Otherwise, we will see you in the next video.